Hey Heartland family, Pastor Ethan here with another Walk the Path video from Sunday's message. This week we talked about Matthew chapter 7 verses 1 through 6. And we had a great dialogue that had a lot of nuance to it and a lot of different opinions, which I think were valuable. We talked about not judging others and what that looks like. Typically people misuse this portion of scripture quite a bit. But one thing we didn't really get to on the Sunday service that I wanted to point out here is in verse 6 it says, "Don't give what is holy to the dogs, or toss your pearls before pigs, or they will trample them under their feet, turn and tear you to pieces." In a Jewish person's mind back in these days, they thought of pearls when you were stringing ideas of scripture together and trying to come up with a cohesive thought on what it's saying throughout the scripture. It's called a string of pearls. And they would string these pearls together, and they would get pearls of wisdom. And so when you think of pearls, you think of wisdom, typically, in the Jewish mind. And also dogs and pigs are what a lot of the Jewish people called the Gentiles, people who were outside of the Jewish faith, who were pagans, things like that. They're the dogs and the pigs, and unclean, right? And so you can think of some stories where Jesus talks about someone being a dog. When we think about verse 6, "Don't give what is holy to the dogs, or toss your pearls before pigs." And what has to do with judging is, oftentimes, I think this is what we run into as the church is almost always tossing its pearls, the things that Scripture teaches, before the nation, before our friends and coworkers. We're saying, well, you need to submit to this way of doing life, to this thing. You can't do that, you can't do this. And I think that's what Jesus is talking about. Don't throw your pearls before people who are not going to understand them, who are not going to be able to take them and use them, because they're just going to turn and attack you. And we see that all the time, right? Where we're talking to our non-Christian friends about why they should stop doing this or that, and they attack us. It's because we're throwing our pearls, the things that we've submitted to. You and I have made a choice as Christians to submit to that wisdom, right, to what God is teaching. And we say, yes, Lord, like, I'll do that. I won't do that because I love you. But people outside the church have not submitted to that, so we can't expect them to. And so I would encourage you, as we walk the path this week, to not judge, especially outsiders in the church. And to further illuminate this point, 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9 through 13 says this: "I wrote to you in a letter not to associate with sexually immoral people. I did not mean the immoral people of this world, or greedy, or swindlers, or idolaters. Otherwise, you would have to leave this world. But actually, I wrote to you not to associate with anyone who claims to be a brother or sister and is sexually immoral, or greedy, an idolater, or verbally abusive, a drunkard, or a swindler. Do not even eat with such a person." So he's talking about people outside the church. They're going to do all that stuff. Don't worry about it. But if people in the church are doing this stuff, okay, this is where it gets down to it. And this is what Paul says. "For what business is it of mine to judge outsiders? Don't you judge those who are inside? God judges outsiders. Remove the evil person from among you." So I want to encourage you this week, maybe you've been pushing all your pearls onto people that haven't submitted to it. Let's stop doing that, and let's just live out the pearls that we have, and maybe they'll see that there's great value in the way we live because of the pearls that we cling to, and stop throwing them before pigs. It's kind of a hard one, but we can do it, and I think people will receive your message much better once we stop doing that. I love you guys. We'll see you Sunday. Have a great week.